Okay, so the colourful scene exploring Totsuko's backstory ends, with Totsuko trying to find a seat to eat breakfast. The canteen looks stunning, and it feels like I'm at a resort with the cereal dispensers, bowls of fruit, and shiny chafing dishes. These girls are privileged little bastards. Again, we have the prettiness and idealism of the scene contrasting heavily with Totsuko's actual feelings of isolation. Everyone in the canteen is faceless, and an unclear murky mix of pastels. They almost blend in with a colourful background. Totsuko is unable to read their colours, and this shows she doesn't know anyone very well at all. Again, it's a sad scene without hitting you over the head with a point. Compare this to the opening scene of Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse, where the main character Dawn is in this exact situation. The seat she initially chooses is stolen by someone else, the new place she sits in was barfed on earlier in the day, and even when she does get a seat, a group of popular girls walks up to her and calls her a lesbo and laughs in her face. Part of the appeal and fun of Todd Solondz's movies is how well they capture the true meanness and sociopathy of people in our everyday lives. But there's a point where it's egregious and lazily written, and I find the rest of the movie to be just that. This movie is presenting the same idea of not fitting in with everyone else, but it does it in its own way, which is more kind to the main character as well. But anyway, this scene concludes when Totsuko is able to actually find some colours she recognises, and that's the colour emitted by her dorm mates. I'm pretty keen to talk about these three girls, because they're utilised in this movie very well, but not for the reasons that you might think. You've got Minako Kotobuki, who plays Sumika, who's meant to be a gal but someone who's very caring of the group. She actually has the same voice actress as Mugi from K-On!, so it's super nice to see Minako and Naoko working together again. She sounds completely different in this movie, but you can still trace small hints of Mugi throughout her voice lines. You've got Aoi Yuki the Goat playing Shiho. Fantastic casting. I talked about in my Heike Monogatari video just how good of a job Aoi Yuki did as Biwa, so I'm glad to see her back here as well. Looking at the lineup of characters before the movie came out, I was already guessing that this girl would be voiced by Aoi Yuki just by pure appearance, and I guess I was right. This is a very Aoi Yuki coded looking character. Shiho is meant to be a fan of weird and odd things, and you see some of her toys and knickknacks scattered around the dorm room later in the movie. I just call her the Muppet Mouth Girl because she's got a very big puppet-like mouth. I think she's actually the least utilised out of these three characters, which is a bit disappointing because I love Aoi Yuki so much, but this ties into a point that I'm going to be making about these characters in a sec. Our final character here is Saku Momochi, who is voiced by the comedian Yasuko. She's described as a generous and strong-willed person who's a connoisseur of snacks. It was really interesting to learn about her voice actress Yasuko. As I said, she's a comedian, and this is her first time doing voice acting ever. She's also in the Japanese military, which is very surprising. I was also very curious about what sort of comedy work she does. I hadn't looked anything up, but then by complete chance I was scrolling through some old Instagram reels from a few months ago, and then I find this clip recognizing her as the voice actress of this character, and I just lost my shit. It's insane. I had zero idea that this was Yasuko the first time that I watched this clip, so watching it again was a complete psyop and my mind kind of fucking exploded.
3、2、1、ドーン！ドーン！うわーすごい！どこまであるんだろう？でこのまま落ちる？そう見せるってこと？消えたよ？どういうこと？
But yeah, so epic, living legend. To get back on track, while all three of these girls are represented as super lovely and friendly, Totsuko's synesthesia and general femcelliness means you can't connect with them on the same level as the three are able to by themselves. This is shown a bit later in the movie purely through the visual blocking of the characters. Bed frames obstruct shots where the girls are all together in the dorm room, to show that Totsuko is sitting on her own. The group of girls and their physical distance apart from Totsuko is also usually emphasized, with Totsuko usually sitting alone at the desk. The girls carry on doing their own thing, like playing Chinese checkers. This is quite sad, and I really like how this form of social rejection or feeling of not fitting in is portrayed in this movie. There are many social contexts where the people in our circle aren't dicks to us and actually love us a lot, but there's still this invisible divide that makes the relationship not as ideal or as full as it should be. This may never come up in conversation because it never feels like a huge problem. It'd be tempting for the film crew to write more individualized scenes for these characters and interact with Totsuko in more direct ways, considering the pedigree of the voice actors and the effort put into their designs. But again, This movie puts its priorities first, of showing Totsuko's isolation and her growth out of it, rather than giving us fan service or doing what most movies do. A lot of the time, Naoko's movies are good for the things that they don't decide to do or include, just as much as the things that they do decide to do or include. Like, yeah, I'm sad that there's not more Aoyuki voice acting in this, but it's for the greater purpose of Totsuko's characterization. The film is set in Nagasaki, which obviously has heavy historical context, and this was even stated in interviews with Naoko. However, she stated that when location scouting with her crew, the thing that she paid most attention to was how kind everyone was, the beauty and the vibrancy of the scenery, and just how good the food tasted. None of the subtext really matters because the movie focuses all of its attention into capturing the quietness and serenity of the setting, and does a damn good job at doing so. The first scene that really showcases the setting is when Totsuko and her classmates walk to school. You get classic Naoko images of girliness, and you get to see how all the different girls walk and how they talk to each other. There's a cool cut of a bee hovering around a flower, and the bee serves as another form of spinning in the movie, attracted to the nectar of the flower. Something of note here is that over 60 student background characters were designed for this movie. Each and every student was also given a 2 to 3 sentence descriptor to help illustrate their personality and how they should be represented by the animators. All of these designs and descriptions were created by Takashi Kojima, and it was actually entirely his idea to create these descriptions. It wasn't something Naoko told him to do, he just wanted to develop these characters as much as possible. I just want to stress how much of a team effort this film is, and that the reason it's so good is that everyone put in their all, not just Naoko. I think I often undersell just how integral someone like Reiko Yoshida is at helping keep Naoko's scripts extremely grounded, and giving her works the strong personality that they have. So I am really sorry if I miscredit or forget to credit staff along the way. As the scene ends, there's a sense of tension as the girls enter the school, as the sisters tell the girls to be quiet and to stop running in the hall. This is the first instance in which religion is shown to be a bit of an intimidating force in this movie. The sisters are dressed up and more serious than regular teachers would be, and it's hard for the girls not to run because if they don't, they won't make it to class in time and they'll probably get scolded there. Okay, so now we can talk about Totsuko meeting our next main character, Kimi. We see Totsuko spying on her, and we are shown through a flashback that Totsuko has liked her colour since middle school. There's really endearing cuts of animation where Totsuko pretends to read books on a bench to spy on Kimi. As she awkwardly fumbles forward to try to take a seat, she is shown to take quick glances in the opposite direction, so she can sneak some looks in. She really can't help herself. Naoko and her team are really great at including these twitchy movements in the character animation to show excitement or distress. We can talk a little bit about Kimi now, who is also fantastic. While I think Totsuko might be the most exciting character to watch, I think Kimi's scenes hold some of the biggest emotional heft in the movie, and she might be my favourite of the 3 main characters. On the surface, she's shown to be a popular model student, but you come to learn the tough shit she's hiding deep down later in the movie. She's a very stoic and resilient character, but she hides her pain. Naoko said that she wanted to create an impression of someone who felt very close to you, but also very far away from you at the same time. She's voiced by Akari Takaishi, who gives her an extremely soft-spoken, mousy, and almost mumbly voice. She puts the movie in a very calm and controlled space whenever she's on screen. She really anchors down the more crazy aspects of this movie, like Totsuko. And it's fun to see how their personalities contrast, but still gel together anyway. I actually know Akari Takaishi from her role in the Baby Assassin movies, where she plays this unhinged, Glock-wielding lunatic who screams a lot. So it's super funny seeing her do something completely different here. We get some very important visual characterization for Kimi here. One of the most important images tied to her character is how her hair blows in the wind and muddies up her face. Her haircut is quite short and clean cut, but it billows in the wind. I think this could visually represent how unfettered she is amidst the chaotic stuff happening in her life. The hair blocking her face also shows that she may have something to hide, and even though Totsuko can see her soul, there's an aspect of herself that she doesn't present to others. It could also represent her love for rock and the wilder side of her personality that she also hides. We move on to a scene where the girls are playing dodgeball. The amount of characters moving in this scene would have been nightmarish to animate, but they pull it off and there's excellent sound design as well, with all the shoes squeaking and echoing voices in the gym. There's a masterful cut of animation where we see the ball flying towards Totsuko's face. The camera is positioned directly in front of the ball, and it whooshes past a series of characters who would have been really hard to draw in perspective. The foreshortening of Totsuko's arms would have been tricky here too, and there's a bit of lag before the ball connects with Totsuko's face to allow Totsuko to soak in Kimi's pretty colours, but also to make the impact of the ball smacking her in the face funnier. This scene is a really cute and funny way to show how Totsuko's love for Kimi has already been cemented. When we like or love people, we're going to like them for reasons outside of them just being nice or attractive. We will start liking them for weird and amorphous reasons or strange memories that you've had together. Totsuko likes Kimi not because of her pretty face or anything, but because she likes her unique colour so much that she'd be willing to be smacked in the face to experience it. This also helps characterise Totsuko's accepting nature and ability to find beauty in silly things. There's a great piece of editing here where we see Totsuko giggling her face off while lying flat with her nose bleeding in the gym, and then it instantly cuts to her sleeping in bed at night, still giggling in the exact same way from hours before while cuddling her ram. It got everyone in the cinema laughing, and it shows just how down bad Totsuko is for Kimi. Something I love about Naoko's work is how love is portrayed in a very multi-layered way. She's great at exploring the ways love can exist outside of the usual signifiers of intimacy in film, such as kissing, dating, eroticism, or sex. Sex is usually a key part of teen dramas, in which characters are experimenting with it for the first time, with wonky puberty-guided roadmaps and poor decision-making. However, this movie isn't concerned with portraying that either. Love and attraction in Naoko's work is shown in so many other ways. In Liz, Mizore loves Nozomi's footsteps and the way she plays the flute and the way her hair sways about. The movie is able to create one of the most painfully intimate moments in all of fiction out of a single hug. It's next level mouth-frothing down badness. There's no other relationship in media quite like Nozomi and Mizore's relationship. People have been praising Challengers for its ability to portray intimacy more out of the act of playing tennis, rather than the actual sex in the movie. People have been treating this as some sort of big revelation, while Naoko's been doing this for years, and doesn't need to cram sexually charged making out and sauna scenes and close-ups of sweaty jiggling muscles in the movie to accomplish the same effect. Garden of Remembrance is like the first work of Naoko's that has a scene where characters actually kiss. Even then, it's shown off screen, and what's emphasised more is the tricky perspective shot of how the legs are animated when the girl leans in to reach the boy. Music, flowers, and connection through the afterlife are also more prominent signifiers of intimacy in that movie than the kissing is. Try to think of a piece of media that has romantic elements in the plot or subplot, and doesn't need to resort to kissing or sex in any way as an emotional climax, or a way to affirm the love between the characters. You will actually be hard-pressed. Because Naoko's work doesn't feel the need to do this, it prevents developments and intimacy between the characters from feeling forced, rushed, or unearned, and allows her to interrogate relationships in a more nuanced way. In Liz, the characters are perceived as very close by the people around them, but that couldn't be further from the truth, and it's only noticeable in the smallest of ways. The eventual love we see between the characters in Naoko's work is expressed through countless scenes where we see the characters try super hard to understand each other, or just having fun dicking around in moments that don't serve a grander plot, but instead serve the connection between the characters. We don't need their love to be spelled out for us because it's been shown to us so thoroughly throughout the story. Most stories fail to do this because there are other plot threads and thematic goals that they develop first, whereas portraying intimacy is an afterthought or window dressing. While seeing relationships be successful and official would be great in Naoko's work, it ties back to what she said about labels. It's not about the status or endpoint of a relationship that's interesting or meaningful, it's how it is shown and developed within the story. And again, a lot of her characters are lonely femcells, so getting in a relationship is something which I don't think is going to happen for them anytime soon. What makes the connections between characters in Naoko's work so interesting is that a lot of the time there's still a bit of distance or misunderstanding or awkwardness between them, but they're still able to find common ground and love each other anyway. It ties into Naoko's thematic goals of acceptance and accepting others. Naoko's portrayal of love could be seen as prudish or unrealistic. The purpose of sexuality and eroticism being explored in movies is that it highlights the innate and very human desires people have. As stated by my favourite Nazi, Kanye West, none of us would be here without cum. Eroticism and sexuality can also be stylistic and exciting to see on screen. Love is also usually interrogated for how fraught and flawed it can be, how it can be exploited, and how it can be driven by one's lack of self-love or stability, or by pure necessity. However, straying away from this allows Naoko to explore avenues of intimacy that are explored in surprisingly little depth in other stories, and mirrors Naoko's focus on things that are small, unnoticed, and forgotten about. It would also be pretty inappropriate to explore anything too hardcore with these characters. Jesus Christ, why are we having this conversation? Anyway, examples of intimacy that Naoko likes to explore include teen infatuation, unrequited love, friendship, gratitude, repressed feelings, finding company amidst turmoil or isolation, being touch-starved, and awkwardly but honestly trying to communicate with someone that you care about. A lot of her work is about self-love and self-actualization through being with others, and how the characters are able to accomplish that without the need for romantic validation, or relying on unhealthy external factors. She shows love which isn't always necessarily affirmed or reciprocated, but is super strong and powerful anyway and worth feeling. Acceptance ties into this as well. Her characters have to accept their own feelings even if they aren't returned by the other person. There's not a love triangle in this movie, but there's a love caterpillar between the characters, and the movie handles it super well, respecting all of their feelings and showing them honestly. We are shown love which isn't professed or confessed, but it boils and bubbles strongly underneath. It's sweet and sometimes painful, but the characters' respect for themselves and their own personal journey is what is celebrated and focused on instead, not the shipping or the audience's gratification. But anyway, we see Naoko exploring Totsuko's longing for intimacy with Kimi in these early scenes of the movie. The colours in Totsuko's life literally become grey, and all of the events surrounding her are sped up and become insignificant white noise. We've got a case of super gay blind infatuation here. While the colour change is obvious in this montage scene, the people in charge of colour and lighting were told to slightly mute the colours during all scenes in this entire section of the movie, to portray Totsuko's sullen attitude. Totsuko begins to hear rumours around the school about Kimi dropping out and the fact that she works at a music store. There's a super sweet piece of character animation where we see Totsuko awkwardly tighten her fists and close the distance between a group of girls to ask what they know about Kimi. Totsuko is willing to be firm with others and break down the tiniest of barriers if it means getting closer to Kimi. We see her running and sneaking around completely focused on her goal, and it's very cute. Kimi dropping out of school isn't signified with a radical announcement or anything. We are simply shown her changing from her school uniform to her pajamas basked in a dreary sunset. The pillowiness and lightness of the fabric is captured immaculately in the animation, and there's a sense of exhaustion after a long day. In this instance, Kimi is exhausted with school entirely and she's not coming back. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is an animation cut of a fountain that my friend Holler said was super complex, with the amount of droplets falling down. They said that it would have taken the animators days, if not weeks, to nail. The guidebook says that the animators were instructed to make even this fountain evoke a sense of emptiness and sadness. It's details like this which make Naoko's visual language super evocative and purposeful. Thanks for reaching the end of this part. Next time we'll see Totsuko conclude her manhunt for Kimi, we'll talk about how awesome music is, and we'll finally get to meet our final main character, Rui. Okay, bye bye!